Hello, enchanted ones. Welcome to part 2 of my fantasy afternoon tea. Today I will be showing you how I created these beautiful subtle flavoured cakes and sandwiches that don't just look elegant and fairy tale like, but also taste just as so. But first, don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to see more of my content like this. But for now, relax and keep on watching. If you haven't already, make sure you check out part 1, where I make the decorations and decorate for my Lord of the Rings Elven afternoon tea. But now it was time for the baking portion. I wanted the cakes to be mesmerising in looks, but not overwhelming in flavour, so just the right balance. For the first cake, I chose Turkish Delight. I started by mixing 4 cups of sugar, 2 cups of water, and 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. I placed this upon the hob where I stirred it on a medium heat until it boiled. After this, I stopped stirring and placed within a sugar thermometer. You will need this to hit 140 degrees. But when it reached 130, I moved on to the next step. In a clean bowl, I stirred 1 cup of corn flour, 1 teaspoon of cream of tartar, and 4 cups of water. I continuously whisked these until they thickened. You cannot take your eyes off this, trust me. After your sugar has reached 140 and your mixture has thickened, mix in the sugar mixture gradually. After this, leave the heat on low and stir the mixture every 5 to 8 minutes. You'll notice the mixture will become a beautiful silky consistency, getting thicker and darker. After 1 hour, this is what you will get. Next, I poured the thick, silky mixture into a pre-lined mould and then added a final flourish of chopped pistachios and left to set overnight. Now this was setting, I got on with my cinnamon almond cake. Everything about this cake appealed to me, and you will see why. First, I whisked 8 egg whites. Once they became soft peaks, I added sugar and continued whisking until smooth and silky. I then added almond essence, the zest of an orange, and whisked in light oil and 2 bags of ground almonds. I put the mixture into a pre-lined tin and then poured generously on top almonds covered with cinnamon. Then into an oven at 170 degrees for 35 minutes. My last cake for the tea had to be something chocolatey. I wanted a contrast, so I found this recipe for chocolate and pumpkin seed cookies. A lovely balance of sweet and salt, and I loved the look of the beautiful pumpkin seeds coming through the chocolate. They looked earthy and tempting. I will leave the full recipe in the description box below. Now I had finished with the sweet, it was time to move on to the savoury. And for this tea, I didn't want to buy bread. I wanted rustic sweet rolls from that of a banquet. I started by gathering supplies, merely flour, yeast, butter and demerara sugar, and I simply combined the dry the wet, and then together by making a well in the dry. I then kneaded this for 15 minutes until the yeast was stretchy and became more pliable. Next, I left it to prove for 30 minutes until it doubled in size. After, I punched the air out and divided the dough into 8 pieces. To create the shape of the rolls, I rolled out the balls, creating a long, thin rope. I then turned this into a horseshoe shape and tucked each end over the top, securing them underneath the roll, turning them into little hugs. These then proved for a further 10 minutes. Lastly, I added an egg wash and then put them in the oven. On the day of the tea, I created 3 beautiful fillings for my rustic rolls. The first was an experimental filling, cheese and apple. I love this combination, and I think it's a really good idea to have a filling that your guests will find intriguing and new. With this experimental filling, I also had the typical afternoon tea filling, tuna mayonnaise with cucumber. I also added a final flourish to the plate, creating these little rosettes out of cucumber for extra presentation points. Lastly, I had egg and cress rolls with a final dusting of cress. After all my food was made, I did the final preparations. And now everything was complete. It was time for tea. I hope you enjoy. The flavours of the food complemented each other perfectly. The cinnamon and almond cake was the star of the show. It was so light and had such a subtle orange flavour, along with the Turkish Delight, a beautiful sweet treat that was a lovely palate cleanser. And lastly, the cookies, the sweet and the salt was mouth-watering. Thank you so much for coming on my journey with me. And if you ever recreate any of these recipes, please let me know in the comments down below. All my love, Alwyn.